Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed and we are reading Jesus and Socrates. And they promise a freedom from a sense of estrangement. beliefs is just as true as my sexist auntie's beliefs, and it's just as true as Hitler's beliefs, and Kant's beliefs, and Hegel's beliefs, modern philosophy. No generalized statements. And so you go from this state of conflict within yourself and causing conflict in the world to a mass of differences. You're other from each other. There's no sameness, no connection, and no ability to judge according to a universal paradigm. Anything goes. Who the heck cares? We can't connect with the divine. So that's another consequence of us not understanding the effects of Abrahamic religions or belief-based groups. Now, of course, what we can, doesn't take a rocket science to ask the question, well, hang on a second, what if you added Logos and Ousia? You left the group not to retreat to particulars and being different from everyone and a mass of differences. But what if you left belief-based thinking into understanding-based thinking? What if you reclaimed your own Ousia and your own Logos that everyone has? Every sentient being has this, who has evolved to the level of language. So it's not understanding for some, but belief for others. Understanding for all. That's the point. Because understanding is a way that can unify our souls, but also unify our species, which is super, super important. Well, then we can continue our philosophical journey through understanding to direct union, and beyond that to true excellence, allowing us to actually understand the nature of ourselves and reality. And from that, use understanding to derive the paradigm. Universal principles that we must insist every single politician and spiritual leader have a mastery of. Otherwise, you're simply not qualified for the job. But I believe I'm a dentist. Get the hell out of here. Come back when you've got a degree. But I believe I can fly a plane. Why? I've had a few beers. I believe I can do anything. Positive thinking, right? You're not allowed in the cockpit. If you try and get in, you'll be put in prison. I believe I know how to rule a society. Really? All right, you can be president. Oh, is that easy? Glad I drank those beers. I believe I speak for God. Really? What's your qualification? Nothing? I mean, I liked throwing stones at Christians until they died. All right, we will base modern Christianity on what you think. Oh, neat. That's the story of Paul. In other words, the absurdity and irrationality of having professions for people who do not have understanding and making it the most important professions in our society. That's the extreme irrationality and subsequent injustice of the current world we're living in. You don't need understanding to be a king or a priest. You just make up any old shit and that seems to fly. Belief. So, that's where we are in the text. Let's keep reading. Okay, here we are. My OBS crashed, but we're back. So, lots of super neat and interesting insights already. Okay, the two states within the believer are opposites of each other, and so within themselves, believers are in conflict. Within themselves and with others, they experience a sense of togetherness, and at the same time within themselves, they experience an opposition. Then, as we both know, such believing exists within oneself, but doesn't give a mark of its presence. So they borrow from their experience of sacrifice the proof that they believe. Thus, they keep alive a belief by drawing upon something that's alien, something that provides them with an assurance that they do believe. Therefore, their mode of existence, the believer, is that within themselves they are in conflict, and this persists as long as they are captured by belief. So, not only have we understood the nature of what it means to be a believer through understanding, doesn't matter what belief, and whether it exists yet or will exist in the future, we can understand it. And it's a state of existence marked by conflict. Now, we can also push the implications. If that internal conflict is what it means to be a believer, then we can say, by the way, that might be also manifested in how they act to others, within themselves and to others. So, do we live in a world full of conflict? Absolutely. Is it needed? No. Why do we have it? Because people in power are this way of being. They're believers. Whether it's a believer in MAGA or the Democrats or Zionism or Christianity or whatever the hell, they are believers not understanding. Which is again that irrationality of why the heck do we have a profession where you don't actually have to understand the model? If you didn't understand the model, the paradigm of medicine and the model of the healthy body, could you be a doctor? Nope. If you don't understand the model of a healthy soul and understand how to harmonize all souls, could you be a politician or a priest? Yep. Sounds stupid, because it is. So that's something we have to wake up to and start growing up or evolving. Now, we also see that there isn't a feeling associated with believing to tell you that you're a good believer, but as there is with knowledge or wisdom or nous or Ousia or being or the brilliant light of being or beauty itself, all different words to describe the same thing. So they have to borrow from that feeling of conflict. That feeling of conflict and sacrifice is a mark of what it means to be a believer. So have you ever wondered why they send out completely naive and ignorant 17-year-olds to go door knocking, saying, I want to tell you about Jesus because I'm a Mormon or whatever? Doesn't that make no sense? They are only going to get opposition. Because even if they find other Mormons, they're going to be saying like, yeah, I'm already believing. And by the way, I don't think you actually believe it right, because every Mormon has a different opinion or belief or interpretation based on whoever taught them and their parents. So they're only going to get opposition. And most people do not have your stupid opinions. But that opposition and conflict tells you you're a good believer. And last time we pushed the implications of that. If the pathologos, which is what everyone has, a family religion, a family belief-based tradition that rejects understanding and Ousia, that is the cause of human problems, if that falls into the same class, then maybe we can understand why certain people seem to enjoy or feed off conflict, of opposition. They act as bullies, or they act irrationally, or they act cruelly towards their fellow man. And they seem to like it, feed off the gossip, feed off the drama. Because that opposition and conflict reflects an opposition or limitation within themselves and a conflict within themselves, and it lets them know they're a good member of their tribe, their family. Which is obviously terrible and a huge problem for the world, but something we need to look out for. Because unless you are in an open, generous, seeking understanding state of mind, you won't be a good person to talk to. Which is why in midwifery, that's kind of the prerequisite coming in. Are you genuinely open to change your mind? Are you genuinely open to new insight? Have you emptied your cup from what you think you know? and you're willing to learn and evolve. If not, you are just going to pretend to do philosophy, pretend to do midwifery, but really you're looking for a fight. Which can allow us to make sense of modern relationships. Looking for conflict and opposition and a sense of sacrifice or limit to tell you you're a good member of the family. Now, that's our hypothesis. We haven't read in the book that this applies to the pathologos. We haven't brought up the pathologos yet. So maybe that's coming. But whether we like it or not, these Abrahamic religions are a major force on our world. So even if we are not in it ourselves, or we left it ourselves, it still has an influence on our thinking. Which is why we don't have anyone in the world who is insisting on the logos for politicians and religious or spiritual leaders. Which is how Trump got into office again. The Democrats didn't say, here is a universal true model that everyone has to follow, so no corruption, Nancy Pelosi, no pretending to be a Democrat but you're really a Republican, shilling out for the billionaires, half of the Democratic members. No, a little bit of fascism, a little bit of genocide, a little bit of AIPAC money. No. We never say a little bit of crashing the plane for pilots, a little bit of torturing your patients for surgeons, a little bit of blowing up people's engines for mechanics. No, not a little bit. Not a little bit of right wing, no. Because these Abrahamic religions that fundamentally reject Ousia and Logos needed to perceive and understand a universal paradigm for healing the soul, psychotherapy, managing the world, politicians, and guiding souls to their highest excellence, spiritual leaders. We don't have it. It's just beliefs. But the great thing about this channel is we are actually learning that paradigm. We're learning the model for solving human problems, philosophical midwifery. The new paradigm is the subtitle of the book. We're learning how to develop Ousia and understanding to reach being through understanding. That's philosophy. And we're learning how to understand the message from our dreams to help us in both of those two pursuits. Now, Socrates is someone who's done that, so he's guiding our conversation now, which is why this book is such a goddamn banger. Imagine living in a world where we insisted Socrates become president of the world. Every day would be such a conversation like this, rational, helpful. So, falling out of Abrahamic beliefs or just simply growing up in our current world, so influenced by it, we end up with people who lack what is necessary for making general judgments, which is a metaphysical spiritual system. Okay? So we retreat to the apparent safety of saying, hey, every opinion is just as good as anything else. Who's to say? Okay? And now, if we do want a strict paradigm or model for all possible spiritual systems, we actually have that. It was from Socrates' teacher, not Diotima, the other one, Parmenides. All possible spiritual systems can be understood in strict metaphysical understanding terms. You don't have to pick teams. You can understand all of them. Isn't that neat? So I think our religion is right because we have the nukes. Oh, no. Actually, let's have a look at the chart. Oh, you're actually here. These are the problems. Oh, you're facing them. You're in internal conflict. Oh, and you're causing external conflict. Oh, interesting. So this is what you'd have to do to reflect on the cause, to see why it's necessary for you to have been trapped in your way of thinking, and to see that you are a part of a greater paradigm, and this is what you need to move on to the next one. Okay? Just rational. When you go to the doctor's office and your arm fell off, you don't say, well, I'm a member of the one-arm people, and we think that the right way of being is one arms. And who are you to say that I should have two arms? You're anti-Semitic. You're anti-one-armers. No, that's silly. Just because you believe it doesn't make it true. In fact, beliefs are usually in opposition to truth. Understanding is what makes it true, and we can understand what a healthy body looks like and that has two arms. Kind of simple. And the Parmenides is the paradigm. So, and by the way, that paradigm is based on the highest idea of God being one, the one, from which we get oneness, wholeness, perfect, complete unity, because all of these flow from the highest concept of one. Everything that you see is a one, otherwise you wouldn't see it. Every thought is a one, everything is a one. If you want to say, hey, what's your idea of God? Well, is that one thing that you're pointing out from other things? You're not saying, what's your idea of a race car? The most fundamental unit of thought and perception is the idea of one, and also the highest idea of God. Very different from using, well, the idea of God as the highest metaphysical term, because that's just awash with all different personal beliefs and brainwashing and thousands of years of manipulation by authority figures and so on. So those who depart from Abrahamic religions are in a desperate state. Now we might even say most modern people, because even those who say, well, I'm not Catholic, or I might have gone to a Catholic school, or I might have had Christian parents, or, you still grow up in a culture heavily influenced by these Abrahamic religions. We are in a desperate state. Because even if we leave those groups, we do not seek a more direct participation in the spiritual life through any philosophical spiritual practice, because it's never been part of our thinking. There's no episode of Friends where a philosopher comes in and says, hey, by the way, do you want to learn how to use your mind to understand really well? Because you can use that to experience the mind of God. Not only can you, you should. It's the best time in the world. It's the best fun. You can develop a philosophical, understanding-based spiritual practice to understand and verify your understanding and direct experience of the divine, and beyond that, the self. I've never seen a Friends episode like that. Have you? Why? It's not part of our culture, not part of our thinking, and specifically, it's forbidden and condemned in religion. If you could think for yourself, why believe the guy in the funny hat? If you can experience God directly as the nature of your own mind, can you buy into the fairy tale about God being angry and vengeful and punishing you for your sins and being irrational and jealous of other gods and all that shit? Of course you can't. Can you be taught to fear hell when you're a child, to mentally abuse children to get them to obey you, as many parents do? Nope. Therefore, the highest part of our cognitive functioning, the part of our evolution that distinguishes us from the animals, Ousia and Logos, is forbidden and condemned. So, we can conclude the existence of religions keep human beings in a de-evolved state. Barbaric, caveman, savage, zombie state. And function negatively to prevent our evolution. Now, evolution isn't physical now. It's not growing wings. It's cognitive evolution. The thing that makes us different is Ousia, and Logos. And that's what we develop. That's what solves problems, and that's what reaches excellence. So we're being specifically blocked from solving problems and reaching our goals. So the question from the last couple of episodes is, maybe we should just allow some beliefs, some cults, some religion, because maybe some people aren't smart enough to do understanding, or they don't want to, or they rather just do a genocide, or they'd rather abuse their children. Maybe just a little bit, because we're just small beans. No, we are specifically different from the animals because we have Logos and Ousia, number one. Therefore, our continued evolution and growth requires those two things that are rejected by beliefs. They're not neutral. They're not neutral. If you put the pilot, if you make the drunk rich guy who is too confident land the plane, it will crash. His belief that he can fly the plane in opposition to understanding will crash the plane and kill everyone. There's a consequence. And also those people who you're saying, oh, they have to have beliefs, can't solve problems, so they're stuck in suffering. What a cruel thing to say for people. Because Ousia and Logos solves problems. Oh, and they can't reach the goals, so they live a meaningless life. Their goals, their state of being, their state of mind, their sense of self, their understanding, meaningless. That's the limitation. The limitation affects your state of being, state of mind, your sense of self, your understanding, and your highest personal goals. You can't solve problems, you can't reach your goals, and you can't evolve. That's the effect of belief. Isn't that interesting? It's not an effect of being a woman. You got to stay in the kitchen. You can't reach your goals because the right wingers, the MAGAs say that we have to keep you in the kitchen, so your life is meaningless. You can't vote. Your understanding is meaningless. Brown people, oh, you're illegal because Towhead in the office says that you're illegal, so you don't have rights. Yourself, like ICE, like the Jewish Zionists, the Christian ICE members. This is the consequence of belief-based thinking. It's an early caveman way of being where you do not have understanding because we haven't evolved understanding yet. We haven't evolved language and logos. So we're blindly obedient to whatever is familiar within the cave. So we don't, and the cave leader. So we don't leave the cave and get eaten by saber-toothed tigers. But we have Logos and Ousia now. Therefore, it is a solution to a problem that allowed for evolution in certain unique evolutionary conditions. That's another topic for another day. Strange, unique conditions of evolutions after the dinosaurs were wiped out with the meteorite. Nevertheless, it allowed for our species to survive up until the point where we now have Ousia and Logos, and anyone who rejects it, no understanding for you, you have to swallow beliefs, is keeping us in that pre-language, pre-self-reflection, barbaric, less evolved state of being, which causes our problems and suffering and prevents our highest excellence. That's what belief does. Because when you are told to accept beliefs that cannot even be proven in principle, you can't prove Jesus is this or that, you can't prove that Mary was a virgin, etc., etc. You also are told to swallow that irrationality, absurdity, is the standard for truth. Faith. That's what faith means. Swallowing the turd that irrationality and absurdity is the standard of truth. That's what faith is. That's why it fucks with your head and your soul. It undermines yourself, your mind, your state of being, your understanding, and your highest goals. It's a zombie virus. It's not an opinion. That's not a hot take. That's simple, objective, universal, clearly explained understanding. That's true now. It was true back in caveman times. It's true for all of the Abrahamic religions, and it's true for any similar religion that will come to be in the future. It's true for any planet and any universe in the physical world that can exist. Any dimension. If you get bitten by a radioactive spider and then you can travel to other dimensions in the multiverse, it will always be true in all of them. Because that's what a principle is. That's what the paradigm means. Now, of course, it would be nice if, once it's been written down and talked about, then we can all come on board. But one of the puzzles in the text is, how do human beings respond to that, to what's true and beneficial for all? It's been my experience that human beings are bastards. Not always, but quite often. They respond negatively to the very thing that they need to see to help them. Because we still have one foot in our caveman savage days. But we do have logos and Ousia, even if beliefs reject them, which means we have one foot in our potential sage-like being. We're half sage, half savage. Which means everyone is going to be in some sort of level of development along that continuum. Some people will love understanding, and they're the people who I like to sit next to. Some people will hate it, and they're the people I try and avoid eye contact with at the gym. Because they're never going to change their way of being. Well, until enough of their friends who are more evolved start saying, hey, dude, sort it out. We don't do this anymore. We play this new game. It's called Philodianoia, loving understanding. But we also want to arrange all of those reactions in its own hierarchy so we can map human development and help everyone, because understanding is for everyone. Removal of beliefs and the rejection of logos and understanding, the rejection of your ability to solve problems, the rejection of your ability to reach your highest goals, the removal of that terrible, terrible abuse is for everyone. Everyone can play, everyone can win. It's a
win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win.
So many wins, we're winning so much that our soundboard has gone crazy. So, we are in a desperate state because what has been forbidden and condemned has a lasting effect. So, it's not neutral, even if you leave it. So that even in leaving these religious systems, we still maintain much of what has been taught to us to fear, to be suspicious of speculation. Oh, that's that guy at the gym who likes to think and be nice to people and ask questions. To consider ideas other than those that are based and anchored in particulars is considered to be foolish and sinful. Don't make generalized statements. No talk about religion and politics at the table. It's all personal opinions. So desperate state, says Socrates. So we are completely lacking in any participation in Ousia. Which is the most profoundest way of being. And they gather within their common belief that they do not understand, and this binds them together. So, how do you understand the Democrat left-wing party currently? A group of jabronis bound together in the idea that they don't understand anything. Why? Because they've either left, or still in, belief-based group thinking. And they haven't yet discovered Ousia, which is their highest mode of being, and the Logos, which is rationality. It's the Democrats. a group of people bound together in their shared incompetence, or that they do not understand. This binds them together and allows them to be bullied by people who claim to understand but are really lying and are fascists bound by beliefs. Thus, when they leave, they retain their negative views and not realizing that these teachings were fundamental to their former beliefs. I don't care if you say you're not Christian anymore, or Muslim, or Jewish anymore, or you left it, or you were never really into it. If you grew up in, well, our current world, those teachings are still fundamental to our former beliefs, particularly if you were in it, but also it's our society, right? That's where we are. All right, I'm back. Hooray. So the chorus jumps in. How awesome is this book? Chorus jumps in response to what we've just seen. Here's another stupid argument, nonsense, piled on top of the absurd. These two make distinctions where there are no differences. Go ahead and show there is no good reason to believe, and I'll laugh in your face. You just don't know what it is to be a believer. That's all. Paul gave us what can't be argued against. Why? Because there is no good reason to believe what you believe. That's why you need faith. It's not something to prove, so why pay attention to such arguments against Paul? You can always find a flaw in anything, so why trust reason? Belief is much stronger and more enduring than any idea held by some reason. So your arguments are nothing other than your own resentment that you can't bring yourself to believe. Whoops. Here we go. And the anti-chorus comes in. You can't believe and go any further, so you are left with belief. You believe that you are justified in quitting the search because you don't have the stomach to continue your search. All you want is a way to silence your own doubts and worries and return to the warm feeling of being childlike in your belief. You really want to silence those screaming voices you hear at night. So go ahead and pump yourself up with belief and watch what your belief rejects. Believers quit the quest for truth, for clarity and truth. So, welcome to the chat. Let's bring these guys down. So, we've come to an understanding about what it means to be a believer through understanding the internal conflict that we're all facing. But also when you leave, there is still the remnants of that teaching that rejects two things that we have. We have an ability to participate in reason, logos, and we have the ability to reflect on ourselves, Ousia. Those things are rejected. And even if you leave the tradition, that teaching, to fear your own self-reflection, your own understanding, to just blindly believe, prevents you from experiencing your highest state of consciousness, pure self-reflection, your own mind turning about and knowing itself, experiencing itself as pure consciousness or eternity. That's wisdom. Knowing everything all at once because you're connected with everything. That's what you have, and it's your birthright, but it's rejected by people who say, sacrifice that to just believe what I tell you. Be a little bitch and do what you're told. So we are in a pathetic state if we don't recognize we are specifically here to evolve further through reason, understanding, logos, culminating in the experience of knowing yourself as eternity, wisdom. Okay? But when the chorus heard that, they were a bit butthurt. Saying, hey, don't question Paul. There's a good reason to believe, and don't trust reason. And then the reason why you don't like to believers is because you're sad that you can't be a cool, awesome believer like me. And the anti-chorus says, hang on a second. Are you just trying to silence? Because we know already, we understand them. They are in internal conflict. They are supposed to be a believer and accept the limitations. Only Mormons, only these books, never read Harry Potter, no sex before marriage, no thinking for yourself. To be the same as everyone else in the group, but they still feel different. That Mormon over there is weird, not really like me. That kind of thing. But also the promise that if you accept these limitations, we will take away your guilt that you feel from having problems, and will take away your sense of loneliness, don't fucking work. You still feel lonely, you still feel different, and you still have your problems, because Ousia and Logos solves problems. Not some sacrament where somebody touches you on the head and throws water in the face and say, now your sins are magically gone, because magic. Okay, so what they're saying is, hey, you have those doubts. We understand you have those doubts. Is that what you're trying to silence by trying to silence us? Are we a projection or a surrogate for your own internal conflict? And if you can silence us, the voice of reason as a person, are you trying to silence your own voice of reason, causing the conflict within your soul? What we saw, the significance of accepting Abrahamic religions in the world is a world full of people in internal conflict, and they project their shit on others. Whether it be the Jews killing the Palestinians, or the Christians invading the Iraqis, or whatever the fuck. It's the same old boring shit. But we can understand it now, thanks to this book. This book is a banger. Ricky Martin made a song about this book called She Bangs, She Bangs. #1 on the charts. It's this book. Okay, so also childlike. You get them from childhood. So silencing your own voice of reason by projecting your internal conflict on others. When you get pushback from others, you take that feeling of opposition as mark of being a believer, because belief doesn't have a feeling like wisdom does. That sense of limitation and opposition. So fighting others makes you feel like you're a big, strong knower. But you're only fighting others because of that feeling, which is kind of sadistic. And because you're trying to silence your own voice of reason that you're projecting onto us, and you're trying to return to your warm feelings of being a kid again, which is MAGA. Remember what it was like to be a kid? Always. George Bush, all of the Republicans have that Make America Great Again talking point. Remember how warm and cozy it was when you were a little kid? Then just believe Daddy and let us take all your money and kill everyone that's brown. Believers quit the quest for clarity and truth. In this channel, we accept the quest. If you've in this channel for long enough to realize that this is understanding and the hero's journey, the paradigm or the archetype of the hero's journey, from which all media, all movies, all books, or video games are based, then you've got enough to be called to the quest yourself.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Pretty cool. Just get rid of some spam. So, quit the hero's journey quest for clarity and truth. We all have that potential. But when do you want to give up? When do you want to become childlike? We have a couple of new chatters. Welcome, welcome. One of them seems to have quit already. Couldn't stand 1 minute of reasoned reflection that would benefit his soul. Became like the believer, rejected the quest for truth and clarity. Well, I encourage you to stay in the game. Keep an open mind. If you have as a potential for yourself direct apprehension of truth, not believing someone, seeing it for yourself, understanding it for yourself, and if that brings a state of being called clarity or excellence, then don't throw baby out with the bathwater just yet. And then Jesus comes in. I would like to ask, Socrates, what shall we say about Plato's understanding of your work? However, before that, is it not even more important for you to set out not only what you call your philosophy, but also whatever practice is essential to this philosophy of yours? Then it will be easier to see Plato and Aristotle, the interpreters. How will we say that Plato gave a more comprehensive view of your work if we don't know your work? Did he include a spiritual dimension that neither Aristotle nor Gorgias nor Protagoras followed? How will we know if they included the important parts of your philosophy? So, just as modern Christians believe Paul and not Jesus, modern philosophers believe Aristotle and not Socrates. And Aristotle did not include a spiritual dimension. So we think philosophy is just thinking or talking or gossiping or arguing opinions or debates. That's what we see on YouTube. Pretty much 99% of philosophy videos on YouTube, that's what they think philosophy is, and it's not. It's Aristotle. Just as 99% of Christians think they're following the teachings of Jesus, and they're not. They're following Paul. Is that interesting? Is that significant? Is it worth pointing out every day to everyone? Or should we just keep it to ourselves? Our little secret. Like that meme, that guy in the corner of the party. They don't know that they're not following the teachings of Jesus. They're following Paul. And then on the other corner of the party, they don't know that they're not actually doing philosophy. They're following Aristotle. What's the meme? Here is the meme I'm referring to you for those who are not as hip and cool as me. What? Not that. The guy in the corner of the party saying they don't know something while they're all having fun dancing. Well, that's a terrible one. Holy shit. They don't know the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Okay, it's not very funny. Anyway. That's the meme I'm referring to. We don't want to be like that. They don't know they're not actually Christians, they're Pauline. They don't know they're not actually doing philosophy, they're doing philodoxia, following Aristotle, loving opinions. We want to share it. I mean, I do. That's why I have this channel. So how will we know whether or not Aristotle, Gorgias, and Protagoras followed your teachings of philosophy or not? Socrates comes in. Well, from what we have said, it seems likely that we will find that Plato tried to represent what I was doing, but must have left something out, and may have also added what I never said. As for Aristotle, that is easier. He just added his own beliefs as a substitute for what he couldn't accept from me. Easy to see Aristotle. He is much like Paul, the denier. Paul, the denier of Jesus. Modern Christians follow Paul, the denier of Jesus, in that they both thought anything that came before them was incomplete, and they believed that they alone saw what others failed to see. Says Jesus, I do like the way we explored Paul and Mark. Let's begin the comparisons after you share just what is the essential message of your philosophy, what it is. In doing that, it should help me see yours in comparisons to Aristotle and Plato. So, reminder. We've already got it on the board somewhere. The lineage, where did we get philosophy from? Here. Nope. Here. The first writings of philosophy we have is from a dude named Xenophanes, which is a cool word. Well, it used to be a cool word because it has X in it, but Elon Musk ruined that fun thing that we had. Us skateboarders could put X in our names and we would be cool. No, Elon ruined that. Xenophanes. Whoops. Pen goes on. Xenophanes. Oh no, it's doing that thing again. Let's see if I can fix it. Drawing with the mouse. So Xenophanes, this guy here. What we have from him is just a little piece. What is the whole that is seeing and hearing right now? So it's a kind of a question or a koan you can carry with you in your day. What's the whole of, not the particulars, not what I am seeing. To see anything, you have to take apart, make it the foreground, and separate it from the background. Not that, but what if you don't make that separation, foreground and background together? The whole of perception. What is the whole of seeing? Similar with hearing. What's the whole of it? And when we talked about it last time, well, when we talked about it on the channel, someone from the chat said, does he mean the whole of mind? Or the whole of God? Or the whole self? That's the question. And if you were to pick one, wouldn't you want to go for the highest? What's the whole of self? Mind? God? What's the highest? Self. He taught Parmenides. Parmenides taught Socrates. We have that book. That's where we get the dialectic from and the paradigm of all spiritual systems. So any spiritual system that has been or currently is or will be can be understood within this paradigm. There's 9 hypotheses, and you add his student Zeno's 10th and you have 10. Socrates was also taught by Diotima. We have her teachings as well in the Symposium. Plato captured what we know about these two people, because Socrates didn't write anything down. We killed him before he was writing things down. Our fault. Okay? And what he had was a system of philosophy using understanding to applying it to the realm of being, not the physical world, of becoming, which can awaken Ousia, philosophical midwifery, using your understanding to find the root cause of your beliefs. Now that we know beliefs are bad and cause conflict and prevent your growth and keep you a savage barbarian caveman, it might be worth understanding the root cause of your beliefs so you can remove them. You can't reason your beliefs away because
The problem is that you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
that's what the oracle says, and of course the oracle is always right. Can't reason yourself out of a position you didn't reason yourself into. You need philosophical midwifery, which is the dialectic, this dialectic here, the structure of understanding applied to self-reflection. Apply the dialectic to your dreams and you have a guide for both. That's dream analysis. Socrates had that. And then to tell stories about all of this is mythology. Homer had that. It sounds like Zeno and Parmenides were writing things down, but Socrates didn't because we killed him. So we lost that with Socrates. Socrates taught Plato. Plato didn't like dream analysis and midwifery because that was associated with Homer. And the official reason why we murdered his teacher in front of him when he was in his 20s was because he wasn't following Homer, the official dogma. Of course, they didn't really understand Homer either, but that was the charge. So we have this from Plato. Plato then taught Aristotle in the academy, the first universities of the West. But Aristotle had a problem accepting philosophy because it's also spiritual. It's not the physical world, it's the world of being. That's where we get the cause of the physical world, the principles of the physical world, and the paradigm that we need to act justly and make beautiful creations in the physical world from. Now, of course you have a block against philosophy and spirituality. That's what it means to be human. That's why we need dream analysis and midwifery. So, but like we said, we lost this in Plato. So, Plato wasn't able to do midwifery and dream analysis with Aristotle, so we also lost philosophy. That was gone, that was gone, that was gone, that was gone. So the 4 pillars of the art of what it means to be a human and what we're here to develop: philodianoia, the love of understanding, the dialectic, is now gone with Aristotle. And Aristotle taught Alexander the Great and is the expert apparently of philosophy in our modern tradition, our modern Roman tradition. Roman modern materialism. If you look at philosophy on the YouTube, it's all about how to live in the physical world. No metaphysics. That keeps us in our fate, keeps us suffering, and will lead to our extinction as a species. That's Aristotle. But fortunately, we have what we need because of the Balboa translations and the work by Dr. Pierre Grimes to rediscover the Greek tradition, actual understanding, the new way of being called philodianoia, allowing us to reach our highest purpose or the destiny of man. That's the meaning of life. So we can recreate or reconnect with and relearn these 4 pillars of understanding. So there'll be a brief history lesson that might be worth carrying with us as we continue to read. So let's hear Socrates' understanding of philosophy so we can compare it with Aristotle and Plato and see if how that hypothesis fits the text, because we want to see what in the text. Poor Aristotle, you definitely have a grudge against him. Well, understanding. He removed metaphysics from philosophy and left us with materialism, a world where the whole point of life is collecting physical things. How can I scam people for money? How can I kill the Palestinians and take their land? How can I pollute the environment to make some profits with my oil company? That's Aristotle. Rejection of metaphysics. And so if you go on, like, oh, you know what? I've got some downtime. I'm having some lunch. I want to jump on YouTube and listen to a philosophy talk. Type it in. It's all Aristotle. It's all Stoicism. This is what it means to be courageous. Being a tough guy. Only eating cheese and bread. What? No. Courage is holding on to the logos until you reach divine apprehension of divine being. Then you can see the logos for yourself, and you don't have to hold on to it through courage because you are now it. That's what courage is. It's a practice you develop to follow the logos until you remove your false beliefs through midwifery and you reach pure being, and then that courage, which was formerly a practice of following the logos, now becomes innate, or in the flow, or in the zone, they call it in basketball. A natural state of excellence. I've never heard that on YouTube. So yeah, screw Aristotle. But no, not screw Aristotle. Everyone has a problem in accepting this. That's what we're learning. Paul had a problem with Jesus. Plato had a problem. That's why midwifery and dream analysis is essential. That's why we keep saying midwifery, philosophical midwifery, is everyone's moral and ethical responsibility, and is for everyone. Because everyone is going to have a pathologos, is what it means to be human. And the pathologos blocks the logos. And if the logos is philosophy leading to the logos in being, then you're going to be blocked from it. So Aristotle's block from the logos, or block from metaphysics, is normal. The issue was, did his teacher, Plato, have the art of midwifery to help him remove his blocks? The answer is no. Why? Because we murdered his teacher in front of him when he was too young to have gone through philosophical midwifery. We fucking killed Socrates in front of his 20-year-old student. That's terrible. We dropped the ball. Well, I don't have a grudge against Aristotle so much as I have a grudge against our inability to relate properly to Socrates, or the best fucking people we've ever had. Why do we cut down the best of us? Which is the book that we're reading now. How can we understand all of the different human responses to truth and reason that benefits everyone that we have? Because humans are not just going to accept new truth straight away. We're going to have various different negative reactions to it. But if we understand that, we can anticipate it. Yeah. So when a new Socrates emerges that can put an end to the genocides and the billionaires and the wealth inequality and the destruction of the planet and so on, the homelessness, we got to make damn sure we don't kill that person. We've got work to do. Because we killed Socrates, and then that evolved into Plato, and then Aristotle, and where we are now. We got to make sure that we understand every human reaction to the new Socrates when he or she emerges, so that we can demand they be president, or prime minister, or king, or whatever, ruler. Not for their own benefit, like the current ones seek, their own self-enrichment, to help all of us. So we have to find all of the reactions to truth, but also recognize that all of those reactions to truth, like wanting to murder Socrates, can be understood as its own stages of hierarchical development in our own personal evolution and spiritual development. So if someone's reacting negatively, we're not going to get pissed at them, like we're pissed at a grudge against Aristotle. Go, oh yeah, that's fine. You're just at stage 4. Here's what you need to do. Just like if you're a young football player and you don't know how to make a corner kick in soccer. You don't get mad. Oh no, you're just at this level. You need to first learn this, and then this, and this is how you do a curved shot, and now you can take a corner. Not blame or punishment. It's just understanding. Socrates. Well, that's a thoughtful way of continuing, Jesus. Surely you do offer a perfect point of departure. What's your philosophy? So we can see how close Plato and Aristotle got. It is first necessary for me to say that my philosophy is not something unique to me. That's modernism. Kant's philosophy, Hegel's philosophy.
Have you read Brand at all? Have you read Nagel? What about Scanlon? Have you read Scanlon or Scruton or Edmund Burke? Have you read C.S. Lewis? Have you read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Have you read Immanuel Kant? So you know Fichte.
What has this got to do with Bob's Burgers?
Do you practice self-love in a Kantian sense? Do you masturbate to Kant? Have you seen Infinity Wars? Have you even seen Age of Ultron?
That's the best encapsulation of modern philosophy I've ever heard. That's that funny guy. Was it Benjamin? Oh god, I have to find his name. He's a strange name. Bob's Burgers. Voice actor. He's also on H. John Benjamin. H. John Benjamin is also on Archer. That's a pretty fun animated series. H. John Benjamin on The Majority Report with Sam Cedar. You can find that on YouTube. Worth a watch. Especially today. Today's the All-Stars. On the fun half, there is an All-Stars episode. Sam's not on it, but the Ninja Turtles. The 4 Ninja Turtles of news. Thursday fun half. I always tune into that one. Difficult because Tim Heidecker's office hours is on at the same time, so the duality of man. Do I watch office hours with Tim Heidecker, or do I watch the Majority Report All Stars Thursday fun half? Anyway, that's where the clip came from, the Majority Report. So Socrates' philosophy is not unique to him. In a real sense, I have no personal philosophy. I am one of those philosophers who stand in a long line, singing the same song about the gods and their dealings with man. I may have gone further than some, just as some have said what I have said. Equally, in the future, there will be others who will catch this most splendid of tunes of philosophy and join me in this song. Wow. Okay. I mean, there's us, right? That's us. We are rediscovering Socrates. But it's not Socrates, it's just philosophy, because philosophy isn't a personal opinion of Kant or all those other people's John mentioned. What do you call him? His initial is first. I'm gonna have to pause. Well, there you go. H does stand for something, but he doesn't like to tell people what it is. So he just goes by John Benjamin. And there is a name attached to it, and it was put in his credits by one of his friends who put his name in the credits of something he was working on, and it was a joke, and now it's stuck. H. John Benjamin, we call Johnny, or Johnny Boy. That's what we can call him, because, you know, we're cool. So, Socrates is in a long line of philosophers singing the same song about the gods and their dealings with man. I may have gone further than some, just as some have said what I have said. Equally, in the future, there will be a whole bunch of people subscribing to the Awakening Philosophy podcast on YouTube and Twitch, and they will catch this most splendid of tunes of philosophy and join me in the song. Join them, won't you? Stay a while and listen. Subscribe on Twitch and YouTube. So what have I come to? It is in this most fundamental analogy. As that which is beyond all names and categories, okay, already starting hard, Going hard in the paint. Let's keep going. That which is beyond all names and categories is the cause of that most brilliant light of being. We've been saying about the brilliant light of being a million times today. We can't emphasize it enough. It's kind of the root of everything. It's the root of metaphysics. It's the cause of understanding. It's the ultimate goal of understanding. You then apply understanding to it to go beyond it. The brilliant light of being is beauty itself. It's the ultimate experience between lovers and the progression of love and logos towards the ultimate experience. But again, you then use it as the base of operations to develop true excellence. So you go beyond it. But let's keep going. That's why we talk about it. Nous, Ousia, beauty itself. Brilliant light of being, bliss. And at the root of philosophy. Because he's putting it in this one analogy. He's summarizing the entirety of philosophy. Not his philosophy. He's just singing the same song as everyone. It's just the philosophy. That which is beyond all names and categories is the cause of that most brilliant light of being. So too is this most brilliant light of being to the sun, or Helos. So what causes life and development in our, well, yeah, I suppose you could say growth and nourishment? Our sun, or the principle of suns in our galaxy, universe. Caused by the brilliant light of being, which is itself caused by something which is beyond all names and categories. Here is the most splendid of mean analogies. Right into mean analogies so far, aren't we? It's the depth. Its depth is marvelous to behold and understand. The analogy expresses that there is a parallel structure between heaven and earth, between the realm of the mind and its transition to the cosmos. Cosmos is the physical everything. The primary term is named the good itself. And the second term, the divine luminosity, is also called the idea of the good. For when we stress this term, idea, capital I, not concept, we do it because in the Greek, the word means to behold. This is key. This is one of the great betrayals of philosophy in the Aristotelian tradition. They mistranslate this word idea as form. It's not. It means to behold. To behold the good is to behold it as the divine luminosity. The second ratio, or logos, flick over to the page in your book where you're making the notes or the clues to solve the puzzle about the logos. The material you need to do a dialectic on the logos, if you want to know the highest aspect of reality and the meaning of intelligibility, and put down ratio. Another clue to figure out and do a dialectic on the logos, it's also ratio. Isn't that interesting? The second ratio, or logos, continues the creative power of creation from the metaphysical to the God, Helos, or from the divine luminosity to the sun. So as the highest term, the good itself, or the good self, is the cause of the brilliant light of being, or the idea, capital I, beholding of the good. so too, in a same or similar ratio, the brilliant light of pure being creates the sun. To understand this analogy and to come to realize the depth of these two ratios is the task of my philosophy. The understanding is, wow, that's interesting. To understand the analogy and to realize the depth of these two ratios is the task of true philosophy. Isn't that neat? The understanding that is shaped through this reflection brings the mind to recognize that the nature of reality has an intelligible, permeating, multi-leveled power that deserves the name Logos. So, go back to that page where you added the term ratio with the heading Logos. I hope you're taking notes because that's what it means to read. Looking for a puzzle? What the heck is the Logos? If Ousia and Logos is denied in believers and religions, but they are the most fundamental aspects of what makes us beyond more evolved than animals, and if these is what we use to solve problems, and if this is what we use to reach our highest excellence, if this is what we need to make use of to reach the meaning of life for everyone, I better fucking understand what Logos is. So, have that page in your book, title Logos, keep the notes from the text, not from some other person. You've got ratio in there. And now we've got the idea that Logos is also intelligible, permeating, multi-leveled power. Put that in your book on that page. So you can think about it, puzzle about it. And have the clues you need to put the clues together in the dialectic. The Logos, intelligible, permeating, multi-leveled, power, also ratio. The understanding developed prepares the mind for a visionary experience. Well, now how good's that? Not just understanding our problems and stuff and understanding how to reach our physical goals. Understanding this Logos that we develop, prepares the mind for visionary experience. Wow. Confirming for the philosopher that it is genuinely possible to be present before the good itself. Wow. So, why believe someone else if you can actually be there yourself? Really puts a pin in the balloon of why some people need to believe. No, just go there. Check it out. At the sight of this beauty of, also its beauty, capital B, beauty itself. At the sight of this beauty of the divine luminosity, as the sight of this beauty of the divine luminosity awakens an intense desire for union with it, so too is the desire to participate in it most fully. So we want to, like you see a beautiful girl with a beautiful soul, who's open, generous, and loves understanding. There might be an awakening of an intense desire for union with her. So too, which is a shadow of an intense desire for union with beauty itself. the eidos, idea of the good. Not only that, you have a desire to participate within it fully. Join with it most fully. That's awakened. In the presence of the good. The experience of divine luminosity. The name we give to this desire is love. Okay, so flick over from your page of the logos, flick over to your page with the title love. Put these notes there if you want to understand the nature of love. For love is the desire for the beautiful and the good. Let's highlight that. To experience it and to understand its depth. So, two things needed. Experience it, number one. Number two, understand its depth. No good just experiencing it without any understanding. It's no good living the pathetic life of Mark's Jesus where you have the experience of it and you don't understand it, but you use it to justify your beliefs because you're not doing midwifery. Therefore, you play out your tragic fate of your beliefs as Jesus did, and you don't even realize that that was the cause of your problem. So you don't have the tragic hero's catharsis at the end. You just say, why, God, have you forsaken me? I've been good. I haven't made a mistake. That's wisdom, the experience of beauty itself. That awakens a intense desire to join with it, unify with it, most fully. That desire is love. When you experience it and you understand it, you get wisdom. In the chat. By the way, I thought that when key moments when you explain notions, people could eventually make clips. Easier than making an Instagram. But you haven't acted the clip function. Is it intentional? It is I'll talk about this. It is intentional because as we go through this, we're learning to read. This isn't my opinions. Everything that we're concluding is from what we're reading. Now, sometimes we'll pull in conclusions from other books we've read so we can keep building together. But most of the time, it's conclusions from the book itself. And the conclusions will always threaten the beliefs of every single human being living on the planet. Unless you're Socrates or Pierre Grimes, you will disagree with this. Not only that, you will likely disagree with it in a way that you'll be fucking pissed. And if people don't realize this isn't just my opinions, this is literally the conclusions from a text written by an enlightened guru and master of philosophy, they might take those clips out of context and saying, he doesn't like religion. Cancel him. When of course I don't like religion, not because I don't like it, because it objectively prevents Ousia and Logos, the very things needed for self-reflection to solve problems A and to reach your goals B. It castrates all human beings. It also creates a state of being where you're in conflict between the two aspects of the Logos. Limit, unlimit, same, different, like, unlike. Causing an internal conflict within the soul of believers and manifesting outwardly as conflict. That conflict or opposition can even be enjoyed by believers because it gives them a feeling, because belief doesn't have a feeling. Nous does, wisdom does, the best feeling, literally. So they compensate for this cosplay of what it means to be a knower, having belief, by taking that feeling of opposition or conflict as a mark of what it means to be a believer. That's what it means to be a believer. That's why cruelty is the point for these people. That's why Netanyahu and Trump and Putin like to murder people and watch them suffer. Therefore, by definition, all religions, all Abrahamic religions, and anything else within that same class of belief-based group identity is terrible, negative, prevents our development, creates suffering, maintains suffering, prevents our true excellence, keeps us in our early evolutionary caveman state of being, and prevents our evolution to what we need to do to save our species from extinction, put an end to child sacrifice, and reach our highest goals. So that's why religion is bad. But if some jerk comes in here, like we get people who are religious coming in here every now and again, vomit their religious beliefs, they can just take that last sentence out of context, miss everything before it, and say, look what this guy said. That's why I haven't activated the clips. But, yeah, I don't know. But you can go through see, this is the thing. This is your insight. You can go through the clip, take notes, make it a script in your own words, which will be better because you're closer to the many than I am. You're the mean. You're awakened enough to see the value of Logos and Ousia, but you are close enough to the everyday people that you know how different it is, and that therefore you can recognize these moments that you think will help awaken others. Which means you can go through the vlog, take notes, put it in your own script, and say it in your own words, and it's going to have a better effect. Not only that, it's going to be better for you, because you are yourself moving from right opinions from the text to crafting it in your own order, because you have to order it. Not only that, what you could do is, and I recommend you do, is take your script and order it according to the dialectic. See if you can use the dialectic in a way to... Where's our dialectic? To organize the script, because then you are developing your understanding. Not only will you be helping others, you'll be doing what's even more important, benefiting your own soul by moving from right opinion to dianoia. Now, what we just read is that dianoia, that arranging of those right opinions according to the structure of the dialogue, and then doing it, like saying it to someone or putting it in Instagram, prepares the mind for the visionary experience. It prepares your mind to experience beauty itself. And that's far more important than anything else. Does that make sense? And then, when you have that experience, join the Discord or come back to chat and say, I had an experience of pure light. This is what it was like. This is what I noticed. This is how it reflected what I was understanding in that script that I was writing. This is how it's affected me. So, the way of arranging your script can you start with a definition? The subject in relation to itself. What does it mean to be a believer itself? How would you define it? How does being a believer function? To take that big spiel that I just gave like a minute ago and break it down to these categories and organize it better than I am. I'm just riffing. But you can craft something better, polish it up. How does that functioning then relate to other people, others to others? So, what does it mean itself? Relation to itself. How does it function to others? That functioning, how does it relate to others? How does it manifest in the world? How does it manifest in relationships? How does it manifest in the soul of believers and in how they seek conflict sometimes to tell them that they're a believer? And then finally, having been affected by that, how do other people then relate back to belief? Do they join it? Do they hate believers? Do they start a war? Now, equally so, you can do another reel. What happens if it doesn't exist? What happens if people were in Abrahamic religions or grew up around a culture like ours with a lot of Abrahamic religions and they leave it? That's the second part of what we read. They don't leave it to discover Ousia and Logos and move up. They go down to a mass of confusion, no understanding, no generalized judgments, no principles, just the apparent safety of making particular judgments. Well, this is what I think, but who's to say? Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Like the Democrat Party. What was it like in relation to itself to fall out? How do you relate to others when you can't make generalized statements? Because you got no paradigm. Because the rejection of Ousia and Logos, the fear of the mind, the fear of rationality, will still be affecting you when it's gone, when you leave the religion. You still have it with you. So how can you function without Ousia and Logos and without a group? How will you function to others? How will that affect your relationships? How does that affect the Democrat Party? Unable to insist on a paradigm so then the fascists can take over like Trump. And then finally, how do you relate back to groups if they don't exist? So if you do that, you can take everything we've read up until now and summarize it in 4 paragraphs if it does exist, 4 paragraphs if it doesn't exist. And you can make 1 or 2 really neat Instagram reels that will have a secondary benefit in helping other people, but the primary benefit is you're doing your work here. You're benefiting your own soul, and that's what's most important. Does that make sense? And if you really want to have fun, because you're really proud of what you created, you can take every key element of each of these, every key noun and relationship, and replace the noun with another noun. That's an analogy. So instead of how groups relate to Ousia, or groups relate to justice, or groups relate to understanding, or how belief relates to understanding, take each of those, whatever you picked, it's yours. But now give them a mythological character. You can create your own universe, or you can borrow from another universe. Not how does belief relate to understanding, but how does Professor Doom relate to Mr. Fantastic? To personify those relationships in a story that might be fun. And you can even have characters. You can download some characters or some animations from video games or whatever. Make it interesting. And you might even, see, this might become more viral because people are more interested in the drama and the story. But at the bottom of this one, you can have a link to the other Instagram reel that has the actual key, has the real terms. So for many people, it'll just be a fun story. Oh, this guy's a cool writer. That's a cool story of what happens if Spider-Man was bitten by a spider, and then also what happens if he wasn't. But really what you're saying is, what happens if belief exists and what if it doesn't? So maybe this will get like 1 million views, but of those millions, maybe 10% will follow the link to the original, and you'll actually be able to share your understanding. This was my first dialectic. And then you're being a mean, you're being like Socrates. You're developing your own understanding, but also sharing it as best you can. I don't know how that social media works, but when you start making bank, give me 10%. I want to wet my beak. I want to get that juicy cash. Yeah. I want to wet my beak on that Instagram money. Oh yeah. You don't have to, but you can. I'm kidding. I don't know how much money you're going to make, but that's not the point, is it? The point is because this kind of learning is beyond money, because money has a effect in the physical world. But this kind of learning you can take with you, wherever you go, in this world and beyond. Hope that makes sense. And that applies to anyone watching this. Please clip it, but don't do clipping, do this. That sounds interesting, but I feel like I still got a long way to go in understanding midwifery before I can even articulate discourse about it properly. You know what I'm going to say, hey? You know exactly what I'm going to say to that. I'm going to say two things. The same two things I always say when I hear this. Number one, I'm going to ask you some questions that follow reason and understanding. You've expressed your belief, that's important. It's good that you have said what you feel. That's the first stage. Now, as a dialectician or a midwife, I'm going to share some understanding. By the way, who is best suited for recognizing such clips? How many other people are watching this stream? Who's the best man for the job? That isn't me, but is also watching this. Number two, if you're watching this, what should you be doing? Passive or finding these key moments that seem significant, pulling them in, taking some notes. That's right opinion. You're already curious. You've already ticked the first box. Being open, philosophical ignorance. The first stage of cognitive development. You're already open and curious to be here. The next stage is right opinion. Collecting these opinions from the text that you see fit. The third stage is arranging them within the dialectic to gain understanding. The next stage is, if you do that and you share that, it prepares your mind for the fourth stage, wisdom or knowledge, enlightenment. So if you are recognizing that there are certain things that are worth nailing down, so much so that you are want to share it with others because you think other people benefit, what's more important, benefiting others or benefiting your own soul by moving from right opinion to understanding in this? The third question that I would ask is, if you are really interested in benefiting other people, wouldn't you be of greater benefit the more you practice doing this? The fourth question I would ask is, the difficulty that you face actually doing this, risking your idea. Hey, if it's just a fantasy, it's safe. You don't have to do anything. But take your insight and risking it by making it. Would you yourself be experiencing all the difficulties you have to go through to putting into action what you're seeing? And would that make you a better teacher for other people if you want to help other people? So those are 4 questions that I would ask. You can answer them on your own time. That's the logos. That's the first step. Now, if rationally speaking, the fair answer to those questions is, well, yeah, it's you are the one best suited, and it's the most important thing is to help yourself. And this is not something that you have at the end. It's something you practice. So why not do it now? And if you do it, you'll be a better teacher. If that's the rationality, it won't change your mind, because
the problem is that you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
you can't reason yourself out of that position. You can't change your feelings by those reasons. It will still feel true, all of the things that you've shared. You've still got a long way to go. I don't care what Jed says. I don't care that he seems to be more aware of this stuff than I am, and he thinks I can do it, but I know better than him. It will feel like that irrational statement feels true. Because it's your identity. You've lived your whole life with this self-image. It's what you've seen through and acted through. It gave you a role in your childhood. That's the pathologos. after you've had the reasons at C's and, the other reason, Jed says you can do it, so why not? After the reasons don't change your mind, and they won't change your mind, do it anyway. Because all of those things that say you can't do it, get out that book where you have that page with the notes of the logos, and then you have the next page, love, and you have the notes for love. Turn the book upside down and start from the back and say, pathologos notes. This was the idea, the goal that I had, and these were all the thoughts, feelings that came up. Thoughts, feelings, images, the voice, maybe the voice sounds like someone. These are all the notes. Just as all of the notes for love and logos you arrange into the dialectic and then you share them on Instagram, so too on the back of the book, all of the thoughts and feelings that come up that say don't do that, you need those too. You need those to arrange in the dialectic in midwifery. That's the duality. Philosophy arranges the right opinions in the dialectic to awaken insight. Midwifery arranges all the false opinions that you feel within your psyche. I can't give them to you. You can't read them in a book. You have to experience them as you pursue these goals. Those false opinions you arrange in the dialectic in midwifery. Right opinions in the dialectic for philosophy, false opinions in the dialectic for midwifery. You have to do both. You don't have to. That's the human quest. That's the hero's journey. That's Frodo leaving the Shire. That's Luke Skywalker learning the Force. So you need a book that you can flip over and keep these notes. That's wisdom. That's the virtue of wisdom. We talked about the experience of wisdom, but the way of the virtues are things that you have to practice, like going to the gym. That teaching that I just shared with you, with the book and the notes and the dialectic, to follow that, to have your soul guided by that, is following the logos. That's the virtue, the practice of wisdom. It won't feel true, but doing it anyway, in spite of your fear, or your desire for different sorts of pleasures, or your fear of pain, doing it anyway, following the logos anyway, that's courage. You don't need courage if it feels true already. You know what I mean? You only need to practice courage following the logos when it's difficult, when it feels like I'm not suited for it, when it feels like I can't do it, when that voice is saying do something else. Might sound like mum, might sound like dad, might sound like Uncle Joe. The third virtue in the Republic, book 3 and 4, keeping your cool. It's okay to say, I'm going to have the courage and the energy and the inspiration to do it anyway. Follow the logos, wisdom, anyway, courage. But sometimes you need to breathe deeply and keep your cool, because you might notice those voices knocking you down. You might even notice your friends making fun of you. What's this Instagram thing? You're not smart enough to do philosophy. You're just a small bean. You're just a small bean. The small bean defense. I like it because small bean summarizes all of these arguments. You're not good enough. You're a small bean. And they'll feel true. They will sound like, if they were your friends anyway, they're your friends because you think there's something good or true about them. So it can possibly knock you over. So breathe deeply, sending yourself temperance. And desire to do it anyway. Have the courage to do it anyway. Follow the logo saying do it anyway. And if you can do all that at all times, you might find yourself falling into a flow state. That flow state, when you follow those 3 virtues at all times, Socrates calls justice. Those are the four virtues. Now turn that into an Instagram reel. I'll have to rewatch your video to see your 4 questions. I'll answer one. Who is best suited? I don't know enough people following your channel. I'll tell you, it's you. You're only one here. I think there's 2 viewers in Twitch, and you were one of them, and the other one only just joined, so I can answer that one for you. But I consider that I'm best... If I consider I'm best suited, it doesn't mean that I'm enough suited. Do it anyway, courage. For me, I feel a lot of work to grasp the network of ideas that Socrates is thinking it based on. This is the work. Literally, this is the work. And we'll go through it in the symposium. I outlined the work. Number 1, be open and curious. I'll write on the board. On the board's up. The stages of cognitive development that match the levels of beauty in the symposium. And this is in the book as well, by the way. This is just from the book. Socrates says, as you reach higher levels of beauty, it matches the stages of cognitive development. And I can't draw today because my thing's broken. Philosophical ignorance, which means you realize you don't know, and you're there, you're saying, I don't know. Good. People who aren't in this channel think they know what they don't know. That's pathologos ignorance. So you're already in philosophical ignorance, which is being stung. You with me there? You're already there. You already admit you don't know. Now, the next thing is right opinions, which is to read a text from someone who does know, Socrates, Pierre Grimes, that's why we read this, and collect all of the key terms. So we've got the book. In the front of the book, we have a couple of pages for love. And then a few pages later, we have one on logos. And then as we find a clue from the crime scene, like Sherlock Holmes, you make a note here and a note here. Now, what we're also saying is, as you do this, you're not a computer, you're a human being, meaning your pathologos will also come up in your psyche, in your world, that says, don't do this. The pathologos is stronger than wisdom, because you can even have wisdom experiences, but you'll still fall back into your problems. That's the story of Jesus. Someone who had brilliant light and went back to his Jewish stories and then had a tragic end. So, in the back of your book, also make notes about the feelings, the words, the thoughts, the voices that come up that say, I'm not good enough, I'm not well suited, I can't do it, I'm just a small bean, I need to read more. Literally, you have the notes in your chat. Try and keep them word for word if you can, because all of the specific words may end up being a clue that unlocks the whole game for you. So try and keep it word for word what you've written. Just put it into another book. This is the next stage that you are at, right opinion. That's where you're at. You're already here. We've ticked this box. You got to do this. But in order to have these notes, you have to also be taking these right opinions and organizing them according to the dialectic. That's understanding, or dianoia. That's the dialectic. Organizing these notes into a thing. Okay? So, this is where you're at, these two. And you don't have to do any work. It's not effort, by the way. Like when you said, oh, you should have clips, that would be a good clip. You didn't have to do any effort, right? You didn't have to think, oh, what's a good clip? It just came to you if you're open. Not effort. It's just following principles, following the logos. The logos is the intellectual structure of everything. It's always around you. Your job is to harmonize with it. That's the flow state. So you do it anyway. It's going to be weird because you've never done it before, but that's what always is weird when you start something new. Playing the guitar, it's weird. You have no idea how many people I meet playing guitar that said, oh, I've always wanted to, but it felt weird when I started, so I gave up. I hear it so often, it's infuriating. My hands don't move. My hands are too small. My fingers hurt. Yes, that's how it is at the start. For everyone. For Jimi Hendrix, it was exactly the same way. You are just the same as Jimi Hendrix, just at step 1. Don't get off the staircase. And if you do that, you awaken what we call here knowledge. The thing that's imitated by those believers in their cruelty, but actual knowledge or nous. That's what we call the brilliant light of pure being or beauty itself. That's a state of mind, a state of being that gets awakened. It's you. It's not like you have to earn it or be ready for it. It's just you. It's whether or not you're open to it. Being or beauty. And what we just read was Socrates saying wisdom is when you... See, what you're formally doing is you applying your understanding to this. That's this here. That's philosophy. Applying your understanding to this is wisdom. Having both together. Applying it to this is that. Now, as you go through this, you also have this. So, pathologos, ignorance, is applying understanding to this. That's philosophical midwifery. This here, applying it to this. That's philosophical midwifery. In other words, it's always dialectic. You can't do this yet, you can't do wisdom yet because you haven't yet had this experience, or maybe you have but you can't remember it or whatever, or maybe you've had it once or twice. But once this is awakened, you can develop wisdom by applying understanding to this. But in the meantime, you apply understanding or dialectic to these, that's philosophy. Apply it to the thoughts that come up that say don't do it, that's midwifery. And the virtues are having the courage, keeping your cool, which by the way, the virtues are something you have to, Socrates talks about it in the Republic, book 3 and 4. It's like physical training. It's not in yourself innately. You have to train it. You have to practice it. So the more Instagram reels you make, the more you have a chance to practice virtue until it's baked into your soul, so that even when you die, you'll still have this way of being. That's the point. It's training. Keeping your cool. Doing it even though it feels like you're not good enough. Doing it anyway, that's courage. Following the logos is wisdom. Following this map is wisdom. The virtue of wisdom, not the state of wisdom. And doing it at all times such that you end up falling into a bit of a flow state, justice. So if you do it, you're also practicing the 4 virtues. So if you do this, it's not effort, by the way. The insights came to you. You have to follow it, that's wisdom. Even though it feels like you can't, that's courage. Keeping your cool when people try and push you over, temperance. Doing it at all times until you fall into a flow state, justice. So you're practicing the virtues, you are doing philosophy, you are surfacing what you need for midwifery. Therefore, I have made a pretty good case. You'd be hard pressed to find an equally convincing argument based on Socrates and the Logos to say why you shouldn't do it. In other words, I don't think you can combat this, dude. You're up against Socrates, man. I don't think you're going to win. It will feel like he's wrong anyway. That's the point. That's what this is. That's why you need the back of the book. If I did what you ask now, even if I find the time, it would be a lack of ability, would be damaging towards others instead of benefiting myself. What's a nice way of saying bollocks? No, of course not. You're not going to damage others. This is the Logos. It's not your words. It's the words from the text. These can't damage others because they're universal principles, and universal principles are always true forever and always benefit. But I'm not good enough. If I share my own development or if I seek my own goals, I will damage others. That's a key pathologos insight. Don't lose that. Put it in the book. It's a big one. How many people do you think have a similar pathologos? Well, I can't talk up at a party. I'll be an inconvenience. I can't share what I think. It'll hurt people's feelings. You know the people who are out there sharing what they think? How many people are on Instagram sharing their dumb opinions anyway? You think you're worse than them? None of them have even heard of this. In other words, it's irrational what you said, but it's important to take notes about it. You'll damage people. How? Because you're telling them to support Israel, you're telling them to buy Coke, you're telling them to be an alpha bro and beat up your friends, or you're sharing what you've seen as significant that follows the actual true principles of reality from the text. These right opinions aren't your opinions, they're from the text. Now, if you share the pathologos, hey everyone, this is why you shouldn't try. Because when you start, you won't be as good as Socrates and you might hurt people. Therefore, never seek your goals. If you share that shit, you might hurt people if they believe you. If you share anything that knocks you down, sure. People who are knocked down in a similar way, then you'll hurt them if they believe you. Really, they're just hurting themselves anyway. They're not going to believe you if they don't already think that, so you're not really damaging them. But it's not going to be good. Anything that crushes anything that undermines yourself, your mind, your being, your understanding, and your highest self goals, that's the pathologos. That's the only thing that hurts. Doing it anyway shows people what it means to have courage. Following the text, wisdom. Keeping your cool even though the voices say give up, temperance. Making it a way of being for all time, justice. The discourse you're producing is wrong and people get convinced by it is damaging to them. No, it can't be. It's the Logos. It's just the truth. By reason, not because I believe it. It's the text. This is proven. Midwifery is the only form of psychotherapy that's been empirically verified, but that's the thing. You have to verify it for yourself. You don't know. You're in philosophical ignorance. You don't know. When you become a mechanic, you start by realizing, I don't know how to fix an engine. If you think you already know, then you're never going to become a mechanic. So you think you know what damages people's souls. You don't. That's ignorance. You don't know. You don't know what hurts people. That's just bullshit from your childhood. Don't show your voice. You could hurt someone. Don't seek your goals until you're fucking... How can you be Socrates unless you're doing the work that makes you Socrates? You can't. So anyone that says, don't play soccer until you're an expert soccer player is fucking with you. It's a lie. I can't do this until I'm the best at it. No, I still suck at this, and I've been doing it for 2 years. Comedians say you've got to bomb on stage for 10 years before you start being a decent comedian. If you want to be a philosopher, get out there and bomb for a while. Of course, this isn't bombing, because it's, even if you're failing, you're saying, seek your meaningful goals, even if you're failing. Even that's a good thing. You go back to the early videos on this channel, all the things I'm saying about philosophy have changed. They change every day. That's why I love this book. I'm learning every day. That's the point. For you to say I can harm is assuming you know what benefits the soul, which is ignorance. Your job, everyone's job, that's why we have this channel, is to realize you don't know, take the right opinions from the text, listen to your insights, recognize your pathologos voices that shut you down, and value your insights like, oh, I could share this on Instagram. Collect the right opinions from the text, arrange them in a structure. You have to risk it. You have to share it. You're right. You might fail. You might fail. You might get 0 followers. I don't think you can harm someone by sharing Instagram. I mean, think about all of the religious shit on there. That's harmful, literally, by definition. It's belief-based thinking. It causes harm. It undermines understanding. It causes harm. Think of all the capitalist shit, the Israeli shit, the MAGA shit. The internet is a cesspool of harm. There is no fucking way you could possibly do any amount of harm, especially compared to that, by sharing the true opinions from texts of the logos. It's not possible. But take that anyway and write it in the back of your book. If I do it, if I share my voice, if I show myself, if I start a new thing, if I seek a goal, I'm going to harm people, damage people. Make sure you use the right words. Make sure damage is in there. Harm is my word. That's not midwifery. I don't give you the words. I challenge you to do this, and then you provide the words. So damage, not harm. Make sure that's in the back. And at the end of it, it will still feel like you're right.
The problem is that you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
Or feel like you're right. You can't be. You haven't gone through this. You haven't tried it. You think you can tell me you're going to do harm and you haven't even done it yet? Get out of here. Go and do it. You feel like you're the expert. You think you're the expert? Come on. Now, I'm not making fun. I am making fun. I'm not blaming you for feeling like you're the expert, feeling like you know better, feeling like this doesn't apply to you, feeling like there's someone else better out there. I'm saying, objectively and rationally, you're wrong. And objectively and rationally, you're not in a place to say that you're right. You're here. Pathologos ignorance and openness ignorance, philosophical ignorance. You have to do this, collect the right opinions, number one. This. Number two, arrange those right opinions into the dialectic. Now, you can move as fast as you want. Maybe you can take notes for 4 years before you start doing midwifery. Maybe you can read this book 400 times before you start taking notes. Or you could do it right now. Your spiritual development, the movement through these cognitive stages from ignorance to wisdom, is a speed that's entirely up to you. You can move fast like a thief and do it right now. Or you can wait around for 10 years and hope you don't die. Up to you. But what I'm saying is, this model isn't just for you, it's for everyone. That's why it's not a DM message. It's for everyone. Literally every single person will be going through what you're going through right now. So part of the reasoning I was sharing with you is, if you do it, you will feel like what it's like to have these surface within your soul. It's all right for me to tell you, oh, it'll feel like you're right. It'll feel like this is wrong. But if that's just a thing that I say, that's a demonstration, not a definition, not a demonstration. It's a definition, it's just words. It's not a demonstration. Your state of feeling right now when you're arguing against the logos, that's the demonstration. That's what it feels like. And if you want to one day be a midwife, it's important for you to feel it too, so you can have empathy for what people are going through. So do it anyway. Collect all of this, feel like what it feels like to do it, feel like what it takes to practice wisdom, feel like what it takes to keep your cool, feel like what it takes to practice courage, feel like what it takes to follow this, because this isn't for you, this is for everyone. This is a paradigm that's going to be true for every living being ever. Ever was, ever will be, any planet, any time. You can't argue against it because it's not a particular thing. It's not like, by the way, that's a universal thing. When anybody comes across what we've been saying about the state of believers is an internal conflict between the self-logos terms, and that's their way of existence, preventing Ousia and logos, 100% of the time in my experience, I get this reaction. Oh yeah, that makes sense for other religions, but not my religion. That makes sense for other parental figures, but not my mum and dad. That's what you're saying now. This makes sense as a model for cognitive development as prescribed by Socrates. That isn't his philosophy, it's just philosophy. And he's saying, hey, lots of people will. I'm just singing the same song about the gods and how it relates to man. Others will go further than me. Others will say what I've said. It's for everyone. But the first stage is people saying, I accept that for everyone else, but not me. Not my religion, not my activity, not my family beliefs. I'm different. That's normal. It's irrational and immature, but it's normal. It's normal. So anybody watching this video at whatever galaxy or time or place or culture you happen to be in, this is true for you as well. And you'll have the same reaction to our chatter. No, not me. Yep. Or maybe not, maybe in the past, but maybe not now. Yeah. But maybe not in the future. Oh yeah. Any time and space, any person. This is what a principle is. It makes sense? I hope it doesn't completely make sense. And you've got a puzzle, a question that you can carry with you as you do it anyway. Hey, do it, try it, no, try it out. Do it anyway, and if it turns out that you've done harm or done damage or or anything else that says that it turns out you weren't good enough, or you're just a small bean, then you can send me an email and say, listen, I did it. All these people died. I got 1 million followers in 4 days. They all started a new cult and they made me their leader. And they somehow got it in their head that being a member of my cult means they have to start eating poison, and they all poison themselves to death. Send me that email and I will apologize and I'll take back everything I said. And I'll give you 100% of your money back. But, you know, that's what it means to have a hypothesis. This isn't true. Because truth is here. Oops. This is the verification of truth in direct experience. Right opinion and understanding, this activity that I'm encouraging you, well, Socrates is encouraging you to do, this isn't truth. These are likely hypotheses. So carry both. Carry the one hypothesis with you. Maybe I'm a small being, and maybe the principles don't apply to me, and maybe all of these things that shoot me down are correct. But also carry the other hypothesis. Maybe it's true. Maybe this is what everyone has to go through. And maybe the difficulty of going through it surfaces my pathologos. And the challenge of going through it is how I train the virtues. And going through it as a person allows me to have the direct experience of it. So when I become a midwife, I have greater empathy for other human beings so I can be a greater guru in this life and beyond. Carry both hypotheses. That second one I just said, and the other one that you are a small being. Do it anyway, and then the hypotheses that turns out to be true, keep it. And throw out the other one. That's the game. Notice, when Socrates said, the paradigm of all spiritual development, of all spiritual stages, are from Parmenides, he called them his hypotheses. The first hypothesis of the one self, the second hypothesis of pure being, the third hypothesis of using that pure being and understanding to benefit, the fourth hypothesis, group thinking that we've been understanding. These are all hypotheses. You don't know it in understanding. It's not an experience of knowledge. It's a likely theory. Hypothesis. That's why we say it's being on a quest. When you're on a quest, you have an inventory. You carry a sack of items and weapons and armor and stuff like that in your inventory. Our inventory is hypotheses or ifs. Carry the ifs in your if sack in your inventory. If it's true that these things, that I'm not good enough, if it's true that it's worth doing anyway, but also carry a sack of questions. Ifs and questions, that's the game. 2 different sacks in your inventory. And the good thing about this channel is, as you go on this quest, it is a quest. You don't know if you're able to make these things. It's a quest carrying a question. What if I did this? What would happen? You don't know. What if I made little Instagram reels or TikToks or whatever it is you're going to do? The question, to carry a question, is to be on a quest. As you're on your quest, you will also have likely stories or hypotheses. Carry this in your inventory as well. And then share how you go on the Discord. Because it's not a one-person game. Philosophy isn't a solo quest. So, I did it, and this is how terribly I failed. The good thing is, if you fail, that's what we're after as well. We kind of want you to fail more than we want you to succeed, because it's more important to surface the things, the inappropriate feelings or thoughts or actions or whatever that got in the way of your success. Because that you put into your pathologos notes, and that's what you use in midwifery. It's kind of better to remove your false beliefs than it is to reach wisdom. In fact, that's the story of Jesus. He had a wisdom experience, he didn't remove his false beliefs, and he played out the implications of identifying as the son of David, claiming to be the king of Israel, doing treason and threatening Pontius Pilate, and then getting killed for it. Therefore, the Mark story of Jesus can be a fantastic tale of the significance of midwifery, even more than the brilliant light of being or wisdom. Now, we could say, well, if Jesus didn't reflect on that insight of pure being with understanding, he's missing the second part, so he doesn't really have wisdom, he just had nous or ousia. Because what we read here is to Socrates saying, the sight of beauty, of the beauty of divine luminosity awakens an intense desire for union with it. So too is the desire to participate in it most fully. That desire we give the name love. Love is the desire for the beautiful and the good. To experience it, number one, and to understand its depth, number two, is wisdom. And if Jesus just experienced it, and of course the story of Mark is Jesus emphasizing this, the understanding to reach wisdom. So in that, he's the same as Socrates. But he's different from Socrates in that when he experienced it, he didn't then apply understanding to that experience together, and therefore he didn't actually have wisdom. He just had knowledge or nous that he used to justify his pathologos religious beliefs about son of David and all that. And then he played out the steps, got on that donkey and did all that stuff that was prophesized to happen, and ended badly. Ended with him saying, God, why have you forsaken me? Not what a tragic hero normally does is, oh my God, why didn't I reflect on what I ignored? Why didn't I do midwifery? So it wasn't a tragic tale, it was a pathetic tale, because he didn't have that realization at the end. So, best of luck. But by the way, even if you don't do it, still have that notebook, still be taking all the notes about why you didn't do it, because eventually that can be gold. If you keep filling up that book, eventually you'll start notice some themes arising, and it'll start awakening some insights for your midwifery. So whether you do it or not, you can still be doing it. I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be right back. Welcome back to me. I had to top up my coffee cup. So, wonderful reflection. Thank you so much to our wonderful chatters. We have the best chatters in Twitch. So, really good stuff. What is my philosophy? Well, it can be expressed in a fundamental ratio, or analogy, or logos. That is, that which is beyond all names and categories is the cause of that most brilliant light of being. So too is the most brilliant light of being to the sun as its cause. The most splendid of mean analogies, its depth is a marvel. To behold and understand. The analogy expresses that there is a parallel structure between heaven and earth, between the realm of the mind and the transition to the cosmos. The primary term is named the good itself. That's the good itself, beyond all names and categories, the good self. The second term, the divine luminosity, is called the eidos, or idea of the good. When we mean this in the Greek, to behold. It's not a concept or a form like that goofy Benjamin Jowett called it. To behold the good is to behold the divine luminosity. The second ratio. So there's a good self beyond all names and categories. But you can still behold it in some curious way, and that's the divine luminosity. The second ratio, or logos, continues the creative power of creation from the metaphysical to the God, or helos, or from the divine luminosity to the sun. So Pierre Grimes would say, when you're outside walking in the sun, look up and say, oh, that's caused by the divine luminosity. Hello. And say, and by the way, that relationship is also expressed between the self and divine luminosity. To understand this analogy is to come to realize the depth of these two ratios. That's the task of my philosophy. The understanding that is shaped through this reflection brings the mind to realize that the nature of reality has an intelligible, permeating, multi-leveled power that deserves the name Logos. So, when we talk about there being a rationality in all things, music, geometry, mathematics, cooking, that understandability of all of those things is the permeating, multi-leveled intelligibility we call Logos. Now, intelligibility doesn't just mean understandability, it means knowability. It's both together. It's a special word, intelligible, meaning you can know it directly in that brilliant light experience, caused by that which is beyond knowing, which is an interesting puzzle. The understanding developed like Reeve is doing in developing his understanding in his new Instagram page, prepares the mind for visionary experience, and confirming for the philosopher that it is genuinely possible to be present before the good itself. And the sight of this beauty of divine luminosity awakens an intense desire for union with it. So too is the desire to participate in it most fully. The name we give to this desire is love. Ooh. For love is the desire for the beautiful and the good. To experience it and to understand its depth. Understand it in depth is wisdom. And the practice of being open to it and participating in it is the exalted kind of knowledge. Open to it and participating in it. And as we were talking about with Reeve, but for all of us, everyone, myself included, practicing being open to it, practicing participating in it, is knowledge, which begins at being open to your immediate goals, being open to your everyday life goals, being open to your highest goals, and doing your best to participate in it. So it will feel like you can't reach this or that goal, but be open to it anyway. Try and participate in it anyway. See what happens. You won't get it all the time, but that's fine. Practice it, because that practice, do it anyway. Fail anyway. Get the notes of your failure anyway. Do midwifery on those notes of your failures anyway. Keep going anyway. The practice of being open to it and participating in it is a kind of knowledge. Its goodness shines throughout, and it becomes that to which one looks when forming an idea of what is just, both in man and society. Sneeze. Now, this is a big one because I have been harping on all through this podcast and this book about the implications to society. Most important, it's for us. It's for our soul. Doesn't matter if no one comes on board. Doesn't matter if they end up killing us like they did Socrates. We can still do what we can to do our work here. Move from belief-based thinking to understanding through mastering midwifery and the dialectic in philosophy and dream analysis and sharing it in mythology. We can all do that. But I have been talking about how it's also needed for society. It sucks living with capitalism. It sucks living with homelessness and starvation. It sucks living with genocide. It sucks living with perpetual war. All of these conflicts that are the projection of the internal conflict within the soul of people raised in Abrahamic religions and other belief-based groups sucks. So here we finally have Socrates saying, by the way, the apprehension of beauty itself, the presence of the good self, along with understanding it in depth, is wisdom, and its goodness is what one looks to. When forming an idea, what we've been calling a principle or paradigm or model of what is just, in man, most importantly, but also in society. So we've been using as an example the left-wing Democratic Party in America and just all politics at the moment, which allows Putin's and Netanyahu's and Trump's and fascism and Nazis to take hold because they've fallen out of group-based thinking into a mass of differences. They can't make any general statements because they grew up in a family and a society that rejects Ousia and Logos. This is the antidote. This is the opposite. This is what we should have moved into. Being able to look at divine luminosity, understand its depth, in depth. That's wisdom, and that's the model that we have to look at to figure out what's just within our soul, if we want beauty and justice within our soul, but also within society. That's the paradigm we must demand understanding of for any political or spiritual leader, by definition. And if we don't, we have the current world. Everyone super pissed at the left-wing Democrats for not doing anything and not having a paradigm and just being rife with corruption, because who's to say what's right and wrong? Allowing this dumbest, most evil, not evil, the most pathologos-ridden, ignorant, harmful people to take over society because they're not doing their job. Which would be this, forming an idea of what's just. Okay. You get it? We get it? We all get it? Let's keep going. Get it? Got it? Gotten? Good. Jesus comes in. You speak truly, Socrates, for the most brilliant light of being is the Son of God. So now we have what is meant by the term Son of God, the brilliant light of being. not the way Paul flipped it. It is the manifestation of God. It is the presence of God. And as we enter into it, we know that while we are what we have become, it stands majestically and profoundly itself as itself. So we are it as we become it, but it itself still stands majestically and profoundly itself as itself, or the self as the self, which is, of course, self as itself, giving us the first term in the dialectic. So arrange your thoughts, your good ones from the text, the right opinions from the text, or the negative ones from your self-critical thoughts. According to the dialectic, what's the dialectic? It is these four categories. And the first one, definition. What's the subject in relation to itself? Or what's the self in relation to itself? That exact expression that is the first category of the dialectic means the brilliant light of being. Most purely applied, what's the self itself? Now, in the dialectic, say, hey, I don't know what a bicycle is. Can you explain it to me? Before you say how it functions to others or demonstration, or the effect, what I can do with it, being able to ride it to the shop, or how I take care of the bike, talk about just the bike itself. What is it? Self in relation to itself. Give a definition of it first, and then say how it functions, and then say how I can use that functioning, and then say how I would look after the bike at the end of that. That first expression of the now, we don't apply it to bikes. In metaphysics, we apply it to the aspects of being or the ideas, beauty itself, goodness itself, justice itself, and so on. But it sounds like this as a self in relation to itself, or self itself, most purely is the brilliant light of being. Isn't that interesting? The first category of the four categories of thought, of understanding, has a kind of existence as the ultimate existence. Isn't that interesting? Allowing us to understand the brilliant light of being, or the manifestation or presence or son of God, self as the self, self itself, self in relation to itself. What a trip that is. I think it's pretty cool. A true philosopher is a true mystic, says Jesus. And if philosophy embraces as much as you have said, then it becomes the way of wisdom. So, philosophy, or the path of the philosopher, as we've outlined today, this one, is what it means to be a mystic. So we've demystified what mysticism is. Is being a mystic something mysterious and only the realm of anime or ancient stories about Eastern Buddhas? Or is it just completely understandable and doable for anyone? We've demystified what a mystic is. And what's wisdom? Is that mysterious? Or what does it mean to be wise? Was Socrates wise? Was Pierre Grimes wise? Can we be wise? Who knows? Well, we've demystified what wisdom is. It's this. we can understand it. And if we can understand it, we can do it. And if we can do it and understand it, we can share it with others. If we share it with others, we can solve all human problems and suffering on our planet and bring our world into a state of excellence and what we're here for. And ask what next. Hooray.
Wow, 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 wow.
Wow. Socrates. Yes, indeed, for I have left nothing undone that would keep me away from my goal. I often said that while there are many thrysis bearers, that's the stick. Like, the stuff Gandalf wears? The Greek word for that is thrysis. There are many staff carriers, but while there are many staff carriers, few there are who are true mystics. There are many thrysis bearers, few there are who are true mystics. Many people call them mystics, but how many of them have done this? So, this, in our inventory, we have our if sack and our question sack, and we can also add our mystical staff, or our thrysis. Because it makes you a true mystic. Carrying your questions, carrying your hypotheses, going through these 4 stages, also addressing your pathologos, don't want to be a pathetic hero, and practicing the virtues along the way. So, stuff for everyone. I made it clear that I am among those mystics, and I urge those about me to join in this practice. You're not a small being, you can do it. As for some principle, I have urged those about me to pursue the second ratio of that analogy. The most luminous light of being is to the sun. Helos, the principle of suns in our universe. Why? Because the principle behind all suns, there we go. Hey, calling my shots off the glass. The principle behind all suns in all galaxies cannot be a sun, but the condition for suns to be. This principle is Helios. The condition for suns to be. The god Apollo is often connected to Helios, and his temples are linked with the god Helios. Here is a divine becoming on 2 levels. The most primary terms are the God that transcends all description, the good self or the one self, and the luminosity that needs all superlatives in an attempt to match its splendor. So notice, as we've been talking about the brilliant light of being, the experience of knowledge or nous, coupled with understanding it in great depth, gives you wisdom. We've been using certain words. Beauty itself, not a beautiful thing, but beauty, the beautiful. Not justice, like a just society or a just person. No, the justice, the model, the paradigm of justice, the model of beauty, goodness. We could use those other terms we use to understand believers. Not a conflict between limit and unlimited, but completely unlimited in its fullest expression, Nothing outside of it, so it's limited as well. Infinity and one at the same time. These are words people use to describe the experiences when they've had them. There have been lots of people who've had them, including these two characters. So what are we using? Beauty, justice, infinity at once, bliss, divine luminosity, eternity. These are literally the highest descriptors we have in our language. They're all accurate. They all describe aspects of nous, Ousia. That's what he's saying. We have to literally use the highest terms in language to describe this, which then becomes the principle of suns in our universe. Which means the cause of this has to transcend all words and descriptions because we've used them up. We've used up all the good ones, the best ones, bliss, beauty, justice, etc. Meaning of life, reality itself, truth. We've used them all up to describe that experience. So whatever causes it has to transcend even that. That's why he keeps saying beyond all description. So we could even add, just for fun, something beyond here that transcends all description. Neat.
Wow. Ow, 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 ow.
What?
Wow. How good is this book, by the way? Banger, hey. Here is divine becoming on two levels. The most primary terms are the God that transcends all description and the luminosity that needs all superlatives in an attempt to match its splendor. These two ratios form the analogy, bringing a unity that reveals there is a parallel intelligible structure of our cosmos. Flick over to that page where you're describing the logos. Parallel intelligible structure of the cosmos, add that in. Add in also two ratios that from this the two ratios of the analogy. Transcending all description God is to the highest superlative luminosity, as the highest superlative luminosity is to the principle of suns in our universe. That analogy is the parallel intelligible structure of our cosmos. But what's interesting is earlier on we just read intelligible permeating multi-leveled power. So I'm connecting intelligible permeating intelligible permeating multi-leveled power. I'm piecing it together with parallel intelligible structure of the cosmos. So I'm guessing this analogy and ratio is the logos too. That's why I said flip open to that page in your book where you're taking these notes here. The right opinions from the text that you can put into the category of the logos that you can then structure according to this. The dialectic. Okasmogi? Understanding this parallel intelligible structure of our cosmos, understanding it and coming to know it, is one of the goals of my philosophy. Once gained, this vision can become the standard for all that is called good, beautiful, and just. A standard? What do we say the Democrats lack? a standard, a principle. They can't make generalized statements because they're just leaving Abrahamic religions that reject Ousia and Logos instead of moving upwards into the Ousia and Logos. If they moved upwards, they could find this vision, recognize the ratios, see that there is a parallel intelligible structure in the cosmos, and use that as the principle or paradigm or standard for all that is good, beautiful, and just. Here is the foundation of our search for fundamental principles. Calling my shot. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The bank is open. Off the glass. Sinking a deep tree. Principle. I called fundamental principle, didn't I? 10 points for me. Or 3 points. Hello, welcome. Welcome. Stay a while and listen. So, the God that transcends all description is to the divine luminosity that we have to use the greatest superlatives to describe, just as that luminosity creates the principles for suns in our cosmos. These two ratios form the analogy, bringing a unity that reveals there is a parallel, intelligible structure of our cosmos. Understanding it and coming to know it is the goal of my philosophy, says Socrates. Once gained, this vision becomes the standard for all that is good, beautiful, and just. Here is the foundation of our search for fundamental principles and our psychology and ethics. So, ethics as in terms of how we should live, what we should demand of all political and spiritual authorities, kings and priests, kings and clergy, but also psychology. When we use Logos and Ousia, use understanding this way, using our understanding here that we've been talking about how we develop, to look back on the blocks that came up for us, that's psychology. Or psychotherapy, you would say. But we have to challenge this against true beauty, justice, and goodness. In other words, how our parents appeared beautiful, appeared to be justified, appeared to be good and loving and caring, was wrong. In the origin scene, that we walk away with false beliefs and images about ourselves, that becomes the fundamental ruling force or principle in our life. What we are learning is we need to replace that fundamental ruling principle, which is the shadow of pure being, with the actual fundamental ruling principle. You have to get rid of this, get the pretender off the throne, and put on the throne of your soul what's truly good, beautiful, and just. Don't be ruled by idiots who tell you what to do, who are just trying to be brutes or savages or cruel people. Cruelty is the point for those who are imitating their parents. Don't listen to those jabronis. Instead, make as the ruling force and principle of goodness, justice, and beauty in your soul this. What? The understanding and the direct apprehension of the intelligible light, along with the understanding of its ratio, as the good self is to the idea of the good, luminosity, so too that is to our sons. That's the fundamental standard of good, beautiful, and just, and the principles of psychology and ethics. All right. Right. I'm eating a movie bar. Excuse me.
This guy had to admit that the people in his life who helped convince him to be a conservative in the first place, parents, clergy, other authority figures, were wrong. Not only was wrong, but lied to him, and that he fell for it. All of that takes so much courage and character.
So what we've done to that quote is added to his idea of courage, we're adding the other virtues: temperance, wisdom, and justice. And what we just added in the text just now is the standard that allows us to judge our former teachers, parents, teachers, clergy, is the actual model of beauty and justice, not the false imitation when they were trying to force us to sacrifice our state of being to be a believer. Okay? What's that? I sent... whoops. I didn't mean to that. Sorry, Anthony. So, good quote. We're filling it out using the logos. Jesus. Now that was well said, Socrates. You link these ideas with your idea of mind, do you not? So how does this luminosity relate to mind? Yes, indeed. After encountering that vision of the nature of reality, I had urged those in my circle to take on the real task, which is to recognize that it is not different from mind itself. Ooh. Not a mind, but mind itself. Seeing it as what is essentially our true self. And we call it mind. It is true that we can call it reality, or wisdom, or beauty itself, since these are different ways of expressing beauty itself. Different ways of expressing that majesty of that divine luminosity that we call ideas. The different ways of expressing that divine luminosity is what the ideas are. This is one that has been falsely mistranslated as forms in modern philosophy classes. People say, oh, I know about Plato. Doesn't he have the idea of the forms? No. Naughty. No. We say to that,
You are a fantastic moron.
You are a fantastic moron. Because it's the different ways of the forms. The actual Greek word is eidos, which we use the word idea in English with a capital I, and there are the different ways of expressing the different intellectual distinctions we can make of that same experience of mind itself. Not a mind, but the mind. Essentially our true self. The way to this state of mind, it's a state of mind, is open to all. This is why we have a rational approach to surfacing the very blocks to that experience, which I believe came up for Reeve today when he talked about going through this rational universal principle of moving from savage to sage, or preparing your mind for the experience of divine luminosity and knowing your true self. as you go through this, as Reeve was going through in his mind, it will surface the blocks to that process and that experience. Therefore, that is why we have a rational approach called philosophical midwifery that uses understanding to approach our false beliefs that we are tied to that come up as those blocks. And if you want to know more about it, send Reeve a DM. He will tell you, because he's gone through it recently. It's fresh in his mind. He'll tell you what it's like and what it takes to overcome it. Good thing he's a member of our Twitch community. Clearly, says Socrates, man is caught in his own beliefs and opinions. Highlight that. That effectively block him from that vision. As those about me exhibit these false beliefs, I challenge them to defend their ideas. I question everyone I meet who lives with such false beliefs. Reeve is out on holidays for the 10 upcoming years. Oh, Lord. Well, I didn't say that. That was in the book, I think. So we have to write a note to the publisher. I might have just made it up, added it in. I question the most powerful in society, and none can escape my quest to examine each and every one about how well they care for their soul. This, as you know, is my duty and role as a philosopher to my fellow man. God has assigned this duty to me. You can leave a message though. Leave a message for Eve. All those who are going through this process also. It's fresh in his mind. He's just been through it. God has assigned this duty to me, just as a commander would assign someone to a battlefield position. I should add that no better thing has happened to any city-state than my role as a gadfly to the state. No better thing has happened than someone like Socrates challenging people about their false beliefs and about how well they care for their soul. As a citizen of this state, I fulfilled my role in every way. I obeyed the laws of this state because through the perfection of its laws, man becomes part of this intelligible cosmos. This has been a big puzzle. Be it as a soldier or an official in that state, I did everything I could to show the excellence that guided my soul. This is a puzzle. If Socrates was the best among us, giving us the logos, giving us midwifery and dream analysis, helping us to show what we need to overcome our problems and reach our excellence. And he hadn't written anything down yet, but was planning on doing so. And the state sentenced him to death, but most of the people didn't like that, half the people at least, and they would have turned away. Like literally, people came to his prison cell and said, don't drink the hemlock. We will look away and we'll let you leave. Just don't be a philosopher anymore. Maybe leave Athens. And he said, no, I have to follow the laws. And so that's an interesting thing. Why would you follow unjust laws? That's a puzzle I've had for a long time. But what's interesting is, because he did follow the laws and we did kill him, today, 2025, or whenever you're watching this, we can look at that and say, hey, we have a moral and ethical responsibility to go through this process he's just outlined so we don't fucking kill the next Socrates. Because if we don't go through it, we will. That's the Democrats' position. Let's not do anything. Let's not establish a universal principle. Let's not find the fucking cause of the Nazis and the conservatives and the right wings and the MAGAs and the ICE and the Hitlers and the Gestapo police and the death camps and the genocide. Let's not fucking address any problem. Let's just leave them go. That's the terrible, terrible state of the world we are in now, without the principles and the intelligible pattern of the logos that's knowable and understandable. This is what happens. We kill Socrates. If we are going to turn our world around, we need to find the next Socrates, and we better make damn sure we don't kill him or her. Because Socrates did follow the laws and showed us what happens if our laws are not in harmony with the intelligible cosmos. Perfecting our laws, which simply means aligning them to the intelligible, universal, beneficial paradigm of the cosmos or the logos, is our job. That's why we're here. If we don't, we go under. We are on the brink of extinction. Our society is on the brink of complete collapse. We can only handle so much exploitation from fucking billionaires and genocide of Palestinian children. We can only handle so much before we all go under. We need this guy. And Socrates showed us what happens if we don't have a society built around the principles of philosophical midwifery to solve problems caused by beliefs, and philosophy to find the nature of the paradigm through understanding. He showed it. His life showed it. And then from him we had Plato that lost midwifery and dream analysis, and because of that we lost even metaphysics with Aristotle, and it just decayed into the Dark Ages and the Crusades and endless, countless series of blood-soaked pages of human history to now. Because we killed Socrates, it all comes back to this moment. This is the turning point in human history. And the question is, why? If Socrates left, he would have been abandoning his post as a philosopher, the most important thing that we need as a society, and appointed by God. He would have left his post. We still wouldn't have learned anything from him. It would have gone just the way it would have gone, except we wouldn't have seen we did it. By following the laws, he is showing us this is how crucial it is to mankind to fix your fucking laws. Make them in line with an intelligible principle, unlike all of the politicians and clergy currently running things today. Insist on wisdom, which is the knowledge of that brilliant light of being, and a depth of understanding of its intellectual nature. That's the principles that are universal and will always be true and always be beneficial. That's the logos. That's the paradigm. That's what it means to be principles. You know how we don't like it when politicians lie, but we don't know why we don't like it, and no fucking reporter ever says that's a lie? Because we don't know what a principle is. Therefore, when a politician or a priest lies or does a hypocrisy or a contradiction, we don't raise our hands immediately and say, therefore, that can't be the logos. You're out of a job, Pope, Bishop, Trump, Netanyahu, Hitler, Putin, out. It can't be a universal principle if it only applies to the poor people or only applies to the Jews. It can't be. Therefore, you don't have understanding, you don't have wisdom, you lack the necessary qualifications to establish our laws, because the job is to establish our laws in harmony with the intelligible cosmos. That's the whole point. Socrates, by not abandoning his post, shows humanity right now, when we're on the verge of nuclear fucking winter and Armageddon, this is how important it is. The only way we save our species is if a new Socrates emerges from our ranks. And he or she won't want to be in charge because this is what happens. We have to do our best as citizens. It's our moral obligation to be like Socrates, to challenge everyone to overcome their false beliefs, as Socrates does through midwifery. To challenge everyone to have better care of their soul by understanding the justice and beauty and goodness paradigm through philosophy. Challenge everyone you meet always to do midwifery and philosophy. Only that way will we set the conditions for when the new Socrates emerges, we don't fucking kill him like we did then. The turning point of human history was this moment. We need to do better. We need to make a case that, hey, when he or she comes, we won't kill you because we know we will want to, but we know how bad that was for human history because we know what happened to Socrates, A. And we know we'll want to because we know what pathologos is because we're all doing midwifery now, but we won't do it. And we'll know how fucking important it is to listen to you as you establish the laws for human society according to the logos, because we're all doing philosophy, because every single one of us is challenging everyone to remove beliefs through midwifery and everyone to develop understanding through philosophy. True philosophy, not Aristotle. Not bullshit academic stuff, real philosophy, this. Therefore, the question that we had asked last time, beliefs for some, understanding only for a few? No, everyone understands now. Everyone goes through the removal of the beliefs. We all get the beliefs, that's why we're here. But that's what we're here to learn. This has to be our education system. This has to be the standard. And by Socrates following the laws and accepting his execution, showed it. We can't deny it now. Now when we need it the most. Because simply, we have the technology for these people who are following their pathologos beliefs, claiming to be rulers without any wisdom, belief-based thinkers in conflict within their soul, which we can understand, playing out that conflict. Any objection to their genocide or their starving of people gives them a buzz because it shows them they're a good Jew or a good Catholic or a good billionaire or a good Trump. In other words, they are immune from reason and evidence, and the opposition to their cruelty they take as a kick and a sign they're a believer, because believing doesn't have a feeling, wisdom does. We can recognize that, understand it, and say, no, get a different job, please. And whatever that job is, you're going to have to learn understanding, like everyone else. Otherwise, if we don't see that excellence must guide our soul and our laws, because the perfection of our human laws is what man needs to do to become part of this intelligible cosmos. If we don't, the intelligible cosmos ends it for us. Many species have gone extinct. We are next in line. Unless we all insist on this rational approach to removing beliefs, our caveman, savage, zombie ancestry, and follow the rational process also of developing understanding of the true principles. important. And maybe, just maybe, that's one of the reasons why Socrates obeyed the laws and accepted his, execution. And if you want to know more about that, subscribe to Reeb's Instagram channel. I'm back. Jesus jumps in. You have said it well, Socrates. I now understand much better the nature of your trial. You have awakened in me much that I knew without recognizing its depth. Still, my dear Socrates, is it not true that these blocking beliefs spell out man's ignorance, yet are not known to them? You have to help them find what they never suspected was blocking them. Blocking beliefs spell out man's ignorance, but we're not known. They're not known to us. Yes, what is not suspected remains unknown, Jesus. Only questions can unearth the roots of ignorance. Questions guided by the quest for truth become dialogues. So I dialogue with those willing to enter into the search for truth. This is my puzzle that I've been carrying for the last few minutes. He says he challenges everyone to examine their false beliefs and find and reflect on what is the understanding governing their soul. But here he's saying he's dialoguing with those only guided by the search for truth. That's my puzzle. Is it both? Is there a way of challenging everyone to reflect on their beliefs and their understanding, as well as having extended dialogues with those special sorts of people who are generally interested in truth and understanding? Do we have to judge? Can you do both? Is it good to just smile, nod, and walk away from some, but pop a question to others? This is why I'm so excited about this book. Normally in this channel, we mix between the midwifery book and maybe a dialogue and a Platonic text. But I'm just going hard in this book because it's so cool and so important. And that idea of mapping human reactions to truth is essential because, yeah, how do we have this dialogue with everyone? How do we challenge everyone's beliefs and everyone's understanding? If human beings will have all sorts of different reactions to it, some of them terrible. So that's my puzzle I've been carrying all the way through this book. I'm just sharing it with you guys. People. Only questions unearth the roots of ignorance. Questions guided by the quest for truth become dialogues. So I dialogue with those willing to enter into the search for truth. Our dialogues are never confined to an inner circle. Those who care to sit in and listen, sit a while and listen to these dialogues, see in another's problems aspects of their own. That's exactly what I was talking about to Reeve today. Everything we've gone through in our dialogue about what it takes to find truth and remove ignorance applies to everyone. Anyone who cares to follow these videos or this channel can see in another person's problem aspects of their own. It's not guilt or fear or shame, or it's because it's not personal. Literally, we just said, the self that we're here to discover is not a mind, but the mind. And the cause of that is even beyond that. It's not personal. There is no personal, ultimately. The personal is our attachment to a false image of ourselves. Now, seeing that and understanding it is the goal. So hearing about it is one thing. And of course, a true loving relationship can hasten your journey towards that end, as we saw earlier in the idea of love. Man only has a finite number of problems. Put that in pink, that's a big one. And each shares a basic motif with the others. Wow. That, how good is that? We don't have an infinite amount of problems, there's just a finite number. So we can nail down all human problems. Holy crap. And each has a basic motif, shared with others. Dreams are a rich message, are rich messages from the mind. We're about 3 hours in. Maybe we'll call it soon. Man only has a finite number of problems, and each shares a basic motif with all others. Dreams are rich messages from the mind. It's a big one too. That can turn us about and keep us on the noblest journey. Philosophy. The meaning of our dreams comes slowly to most, but it is all a matter of learning. Those who have gained insight into the language of dreams have learned to see a profound level of meaning in their relationships within themselves and with others. It is a rich source of learning of symbols, metaphors, and analogy. And in the ways of carrying on communications that bring us to the realization we are all on a spiritual journey. So, it's a relationship, it's a communication, it's not a one-off thing. Stay in the conversation, stay in the dialogue, stay in the quest. And the fact that your dream master never gives up on you shows you that you can carry on communications that bring you to the realization that we are all on a spiritual journey. So does this add to our question? How do we communicate with our fellow men to challenge beliefs and promote understanding of how to guide our soul? Communication, continual dialogue, asking questions, learning symbols, metaphors, analogy, seeing that there's a meaning to every relationship within yourself and with others, each show a message. Some come slowly to most, but it's still a process of learning. Stay in the dialogue, stay in the relationship. This is the Logos emerging from within the rational pursuit of truth. Wow. You do this, the Logos emerges from within the rational pursuit of truth. Find someone who's pursuing truth rationally. Found in dreams, and then add dream analysis to their game. The common features of our spiritual struggle highlight their differences. For, as heaven is, so is earth. It is through such analogies that I bring to birth a new kind of understanding. In this philosophical search, we explore allegories and myths, The myths we reflect on have parallels with the spiritual journey of man, and can represent that journey with dramatic and philosophical charm. Dramatic, philosophical charm. They both express and challenge seekers to unveil the drama cloaked in such images and symbols. Unveil the drama in your dreams cloaked by images and symbols. The quest to resolve the meaning hidden in allegories is found in expanding analogies. The quest to resolve the meaning hidden in allegories. So allegories are the charming, dramatic representation of some of our spiritual journey. And there's a meaning that you can resolve. It's found in expanding analogies. All right, expand out the analogies. And finding parallel terms for each image and idea. That's one hell of a sentence. I don't quite get it, but I think we might be coming back to that for a while. The quest to resolve the meaning hidden in allegories, the meaning hidden in our dreams and in these philosophical texts that we read, including this one. You get by finding allegories or finding analogies and expanding them out, and finding parallel terms for each image and idea. He's teaching us how to read. Bringing these two together is the philosophical way for the cultivation of understanding. With this inner development of one's understanding comes the very condition for gaining the vision of ultimate reality. Now that's an amazing section teaching us how to read, how to solve philosophical puzzles. But we might have an example. When we were talking to Reeve earlier, we talked about how he's in this channel because he's here. He's been in here for a while, philosophical ignorance. He's open to learning. He knows he doesn't know, but he's open. The next stage is right opinion, which means from these texts we collect these terms. But the next stage, what do you do with those terms? You have to arrange them according to the dialectic. That's understanding. So in order to make his clips, take some idea and take the things that stood out for him and share them within the structure. And as we just read, whatever worked for him, other people, because it's not an esoteric thing, other people who come across his content will find in his problems or insights aspects of their own. So it can only benefit, because we all problems share a similar motif, and there are only a limited set of problems. Okay, but then we talked about how if he has this dialectic, this 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences, or maybe 8, because here are some 4 more sentences of what happens if we don't do this thing I'm interested in. I said, hey, you know what you could do is take these 4 or 8 and take the key terms and use an analogy or an allegory. Tell a story about these people and how they relate that represent analogously these terms or ideas and how they relate. That's what Socrates is saying has a charm. There's a word. The dramatic and philosophical charm. Now what Socrates is saying is, hey, once you see some analogies, Spider-Man is to Wonder Woman is to Superman is to Green Lantern, for example, just as truth is to beauty, Reeve might give these two. Hey, Spider-Man is to Wonder Woman as truth is to beauty. But also in his story, Wonder Woman relates to Green Lantern and Superman. I'm not giving you those two. Your job is to expand the analogies within the drama, the analogies within the drama that represent the dialectic or our spiritual journey. That's what an allegory is. Allegory. I'm giving you two. You have to find my other reel where truth relates to beauty, and find what else I talk about so you can find out how beauty relates to justice or relates to the dialectic or relates to whatever it is. Here's an example. Now, an allegory relates specifically to this, to our spiritual journey that we're all on. But a physical example would be, as a king is to his subjects, so too a shepherd is to his sheep. But the shepherd also relates to his tent. But the shepherd also has a horse that he rides on. But the shepherd also has a sheepdog. In this little allegory, it's not an allegory because it's not spiritual. This little story, I've given you these two. King is to a sheep as subjects. King is to a shepherd as subjects is to a sheep. Your job is to expand out what is the king's equivalent to a tent, what is the king's equivalent to a horse, what's the king's equivalent to a dog, maybe a soldier for a dog. I don't know. That's your job. If the greater term represents the things of understanding in our philosophy, in our spiritual journey, that's called an allegory. Therefore, our friend in chat could tell a story in his Instagram reel like this, and then say, hey, by the way, when I told you that lovely story about shepherd relating to a sheep or Spider-Man relating to did Spider-Man have a pet? His spider dog? I meant that's how truth relates to belief. And by the way, if you want to find the answer to this, check out this link or go through my Instagram page to find out where I talked about truth and belief, and find out what else I talked about when I gave my dialectic on that. Because then you can put two and two together. That's your work, which matches me. I had to go to my work to create a dialectic from the readings that we're doing here, and then I had to go to some extra work to make a story. That's the charming narrative, to make it interesting. Well, you've got to do some work too. This helped my soul develop and prepared my mind for a vision of reality. So too can you solve the puzzle by expanding all those terms I didn't give you, and that's your work. That's an example of what we're seeing here. The quest to resolve the meaning hidden in analogies is found in expanding the analogies and finding parallel terms for each image and idea. Dog, Kent, Spider-Man. Beauty, truth, justice. Bringing these two together is the philosophical way for the cultivation of understanding. With this inner development of one's understanding comes the condition for gaining a vision of ultimate reality. We are setting the stage for our experience of what we're all here to experience ourselves, really, what we really are, and understand it to gain the principles for guiding our soul in justice and beauty and goodness. Sound like fun? I think so. And hey, what has come up for you as something you could create, where you can create a charming tale hidden within that, some analogies that you can give maybe the first two solutions to, but let the other people fill out the analogy to solve the mystery itself? Can you be a Conan Doyle and create your own Sherlock Holmes mystery for people to read? Only your one benefits their soul. I hope you do, and I hope you have fun, and when you do it, please share it with our Discord so we can all benefit from your work too. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next